Chicago, December 1945. On the morning of December 10th, in an apartment building on Pine Grove Avenue, the landlady grew uneasy. Behind one door, a radio blared far too loudly for that hour, and the door itself was ajar. When she stepped inside, she froze. 33-year-old Frances Brown, a former Navy Waves clerk, lay lifeless in the bathroom, collapsed near the tub. Shaken, she fled and called police. When officers arrived, they combed through the small apartment, drawers pulled open, belongings scattered on the floor, and then they saw it, written across the living room wall in bright lipstick. "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." It wasn't the first time that year Chicago had been shaken. Back on June 5th, 1945, 43-year-old Josephine Ross was found slain in her North Side apartment. Her wounds showed signs of a struggle, valuables left untouched. Neighbors spoke of fear pooling in the stairwells, the sense of someone unseen moving among them. And then came January 7th, 1946. 6-year-old Suzanne Degnan vanished from her bedroom in Edgewater. A ladder was found propped against the family's window, and inside, a ransom note demanding $20,000. Hours later, the worst was confirmed. Her remains were discovered scattered in sewers and storm drains near her home. Chicago was horrified. 3 killings in less than a year, each more shocking than the last. The press gave the unknown predator a name: the Lipstick Killer. Streetcars rattled past newsstands where bold headlines screamed of a murderer at large. The city lived in terror, waiting for the next door to be forced open, the next life to be taken. On June 26, 1946, police finally made an arrest. 17-year-old William Heirens, a University of Chicago student with a history of burglary, was caught breaking into an apartment. What began as questioning over stolen radios and jewelry soon turned into something far more sinister. Detectives claimed Heirens confessed after being given sodium pentothal, the so-called truth serum. Later, he signed written statements admitting to the murders of Josephine Ross, Frances Brown, and Suzanne Degnan. On September 4th, 1946, William Heirens pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 3 life terms in prison at just 17 years old. He became one of the youngest Americans ever convicted of multiple murders, but the case has never been free of doubt. Heirens later insisted his confession was coerced, that he had been beaten, denied access to a lawyer, and pressured into signing documents he didn't understand. Advocates, including Northwestern University's Center on Wrongful Convictions, questioned the evidence. Even the lipstick message itself, some argued, might not have come from him at all. The years passed. Parole boards rejected his appeals, and the teenager who once filled headlines grew old behind prison walls. William Heirens died in 2012 at the age of 83 after more than 6 decades in custody, the longest-serving inmate in Illinois history. The Lipstick Killer remains one of Chicago's most haunting chapters, not only for the cruelty of the crimes, but for the questions that still linger, questions that may never truly be answered.